If you like this video, click on that subscribe button and be notified of more great ideas. Now, this video was entitled Seeing Around Corners and Plugging Holes. And we're going to start with plugging holes. Now, if you've done any carpentry work, you'll know that if you'd like to attach this piece of wood to another piece of wood right behind it, you really don't want to use a long screw and have the screw head visible at this end. You'd prefer to use a shorter screw and have a larger hole here with a smaller clearance hole for the drill to fit through. And when you've got it all drilled in nicely and secured, you take one of these things. It's a wood plug. They come in different sizes. This one is a 1/2 inch and this hole is a 1/2 inch, and you just drop it in the hole and you've hidden the screw head and you can't see it anymore. The problem is that the wood either shrinks or expands depending on the weather and the temperature, and eventually the plug falls out unless you've glued it in. Now, if you have glued it in, it's fairly difficult to get the plug out if you want to take the screw back out. So I have a little bit of a solution for that, and that is these things. They are earplugs. The kind you just roll between your fingers and pop in your ear. Now, here I have a couple of them pushed into a piece of wood. This is a 1/2 inch hole. This one is a 3/8 hole. The earplug here was pushed in a little farther than this one was. And when you do that, you don't get as much of a rise coming out of the top. This one here has got a kind of a bubble on it, almost like that wood part that we showed you. So it's up to you how far you want to push them in. They are weatherproof, waterproof. If you want to get them out, it's just a matter of slipping something sharp in there, even a pin or a needle or something. Just pop it out and you have access to the screw without drilling anything. I have some outside that we'll take a look at in a minute that have been there for 2 years, and they look great. Now, if you don't like the yellow color, well, here's one that was put in and everything was painted black and actually looks pretty nice. So we're going to take a trip outside and show you the ones that have been out there for a couple of years so you can see what they look like. Now, these ones were put in just about a couple of years ago. Get a little closer here so that you can see them. They look nice and clean. They really don't look bad at all. They've lost a little bit of their yellow color, and that's about it. And now for the seeing around corners part of this. Let's say you had a bolt like this one, only it was behind a big metal chunk of steel or whatever. You couldn't get in there. You couldn't get your head in there to see what size it was or even what type of head it was. You could maybe guess that it by feeling it that it was an Allen screw, but you don't know what wrench to use. What you need is some plumber's putty here, and it's just kind of flattened out, and you just push it on the end, give it a good push like that, and it leaves a very nice imprint. And then you can get your Allen wrenches. Well, that one's too big. And this one looks pretty close. That one's definitely too small. So this would be the wrench to use. And we'll put it in there and check it out, and yes, that's the right wrench. Now, this also works on wood screws. Here's a Robertson wood screw. You can't see what type of head it has, and you want to know. It's just a matter of pushing that up against it, and a very clear imprint is left. And this works for all kinds of screws. Here is a Phillips, and that is pretty clear. You can see that it's a Phillips. Now I'm going to roll that up again and flatten it out a little bit. Just squish it down. And we can try it on this. This is not as impressive, but still, when you push it against it, you get a pretty good imprint of the size. You could measure that with calipers if you wanted to find out the exact size of that. Or you could have an array of bolts like this that you could just check against that size by pushing them into the plumber's putty, and you would be able to get a pretty good idea of what size wrench you would need for that. Now if you don't have any plumber's putty and you're stuck and you need to know how big this thing is and you can't see the end of it, there's another way to do it. You just take your finger, push your finger on it, and there's the imprint right there. Pretty plain and clear. And that also works for these type of screws. We use a different finger. There you can see that's a Robertson screw head right there. And we can try it on another finger with the Phillips. Not quite as clear, but you can still make it out. I don't know how it shows up on the camera, but I can certainly tell what it is.